On the 3rd of March 2025, as a crisp winter gave way to the hesitant promise of spring, the City of London played host to a gathering of significant geopolitical importance. The air was filled with a sense of urgency and hope as the world looked to its leaders for solutions. Leaders and high-ranking representatives from across Europe and beyond assembled for a summit dedicated to addressing the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. The stakes were higher than ever, with the conflict showing no signs of abating. The venue, chosen deliberately, served as a poignant reminder of Europe's own tumultuous history, with conflict and the ever-present need for diplomacy and collective action. The historic walls seemed to echo with the voices of past leaders who had faced similar challenges. The air was thick with anticipation as delegates arrived, their faces etched with a mixture of hope and concern. Each step they took was heavy with the weight of expectations from their respective nations. The eyes of the world were upon them, watching and waiting to see what concrete actions would emerge from this high-stakes meeting. Journalists from every corner of the globe had gathered, ready to report on every development. The Ukrainian conflict, now stretching into its fourth year, had become a festering wound on the global stage, demanding attention and a decisive path towards resolution. The human cost was staggering, and the need for a peaceful resolution was more urgent than ever. The very act of convening the summit in London carried symbolic weight. It was a city that had seen its share of history, both triumphant and tragic, and now it stood as a beacon of hope for a troubled region. The United Kingdom, a nation with a long and storied history of involvement in international affairs, was sending a clear message to the world. Europe was ready to take a leading role in resolving the crisis in Ukraine and securing a lasting peace for the region. The British leaders, with their characteristic resolve, were determined to make a difference. The stakes were high, the challenges immense, but the determination to find a way forward was palpable in the air. Every discussion, every handshake, every agreement was a step towards a hopeful future, a future where peace could finally prevail. The summit occurred against a backdrop of escalating tensions and a rapidly shifting geopolitical landscape. The conflict in Ukraine, sparked in 2022, had morphed into a protracted war of attrition, claiming countless lives and displacing millions. The human toll was immeasurable, a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of unchecked aggression. Beyond the immediate humanitarian crisis, the conflict had exposed deep fissures in the international order. The rules-based system, painstakingly constructed in the aftermath of World War II, seemed increasingly fragile in the face of blatant violations of sovereignty and territorial integrity. The very foundations of international law and cooperation were being tested, raising profound questions about the future of global security. Adding to the complexity of the situation was the evolving role of the United States. Once the undisputed guarantor of European security, the US, under the Trump administration, had signaled a shift in priorities, a move that sent shockwaves through the transatlantic alliance. The commitment to NATO, a cornerstone of Western defense for decades, seemed less certain, leaving many European nations grappling with the implications for their own security. The Ukraine crisis had laid bare the reality of a changing world order. The conflict, which erupted in 2014 and escalated in recent years, has become a focal point for global tensions, highlighting the fragility of international alliances and the shifting dynamics of power. The post-Cold War era, characterized by American hegemony and a unipolar world, was giving way to a more multipolar system. This transition has been marked by the rise of new powers and the reassertion of influence by nations that had previously been overshadowed. Emerging powers, with their own agendas and ambitions, were challenging the established order, seeking to reshape the global landscape to better suit their interests. Countries like China and Russia have been at the forefront of this movement, pushing back against Western dominance and advocating for a more balanced distribution of power. This shift in the balance of power had profound implications for Europe. The continent found itself at a crossroads, needing to navigate a complex web of geopolitical interests and alliances. The continent, long accustomed to relying on the United States for security, was being forced to confront the need for greater self-reliance. European nations began to realize that their security and stability could no longer be guaranteed by external powers alone. The time had come for Europe to step out from under America's security umbrella and forge its own path in a world where the old certainties could no longer be taken for granted. This meant investing in their own defense capabilities and developing a cohesive strategy that could withstand the pressures of a multipolar world. The London summit, therefore, took on added significance. It was not just another diplomatic gathering, but a critical juncture where European leaders could demonstrate their commitment to a new era of self-reliance and strategic autonomy. It represented not just an attempt to resolve the immediate crisis in Ukraine, but also a pivotal moment for Europe to assert itself as a geopolitical force in its own right. The decisions made here would signal Europe's readiness to take on a more proactive role in global affairs. The decisions made in London, the alliances forged, and the commitments undertaken would have far-reaching consequences, shaping the future of European security and the continent's place in the evolving global order. The summit's outcomes would be closely watched by the rest of the world, as they would set the tone for Europe's role in the new global landscape. At the heart of the London summit lay a fundamental objective: to find a peaceful and lasting resolution to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. The stakes were incredibly high, with the eyes of the world watching closely. The leaders gathered knew that their decisions could shape the future of not just Ukraine, but the entire region. The assembled leaders understood that the path to peace would be arduous, fraught with complexities and potential pitfalls. They were aware that every step would require careful negotiation and unwavering commitment. Yet the urgency of the situation demanded action, a concerted effort to break the cycle of violence and forge a path towards a more stable and secure future. The urgency was palpable, with every leader feeling the weight of their responsibility. The summit aimed to address the crisis on multiple fronts. It wasn't just about immediate ceasefire agreements, but also about laying down a comprehensive plan for long-term stability. First and foremost was the humanitarian situation. The leaders recognized that without addressing the immediate needs of the people, any political solution would be meaningless. The conflict had resulted in a dire humanitarian crisis, with millions displaced from their homes and in desperate need of aid. Families were torn apart and communities were left in ruins. The international community had a moral imperative to alleviate the suffering of the Ukrainian people, providing essential supplies, medical care and support for refugees. This was not just a political issue, but a deeply human one. Beyond the immediate humanitarian concerns, the summit sought to address the underlying political and security issues that had fueled the conflict. This meant tackling the root causes and not just the symptoms. This involved engaging with all parties involved, including Ukraine, Russia, and key international stakeholders, to find common ground and build a framework for a lasting peace agreement. The dialogue was intense, with each side presenting their demands and concerns. The goal was ambitious, requiring a delicate balancing act of diplomacy, pressure, and a willingness to compromise. Success would mean a new chapter for Ukraine and a beacon of hope for conflict resolution worldwide. As America steps back from its traditional role on the global stage, a void is created. This void, however, doesn't remain empty for long. Other nations and alliances are quick to fill the gap, each with their own agendas and strategies. The landscape of international relations begins to shift, reflecting new power dynamics and alliances. It's a time of uncertainty, but also of opportunity as countries navigate this evolving geopolitical terrain. The Ukraine summit has underscored the importance of a pragmatic approach to the ongoing conflict. Leaders from various nations have emphasized the need for practical solutions that address both immediate and long-term challenges. This approach seeks to balance military support with diplomatic efforts, aiming for a sustainable resolution. Amidst the discussions, there is a palpable sense of both hope and uncertainty. On one hand, the commitment to support Ukraine provides a beacon of hope for its citizens. On the other hand, the unpredictable nature of the conflict leaves many questions unanswered. The international community remains vigilant, aware that the path to peace is fraught with complexities. The stance of the United States has been particularly influential. By pledging continued support for Ukraine, the US has reinforced its position as a key ally. However, this stance also brings with it significant implications for global geopolitics. The balance of power, the dynamics of international relations, and the future of NATO are all factors that are being closely monitored. European nations have also reaffirmed their commitment to defending Ukrainian sovereignty. This collective effort highlights the importance of unity in the face of aggression. By bolstering their defense capabilities and providing critical support, Europe is standing firm in its resolve. The fight for Ukrainian sovereignty is not just about one nation. It's about upholding the principles of freedom and democracy across the continent.
So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and let's turn the page on a new adventure together. Get ready to experience books like never before, only on VBook 360. Like, comment, and share to support the channel and keep the video magic alive. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, every video has a story, and every story deserves to be shared. See you in the next video.